I'm Brittany, this is Chuaning, and welcome to the Erha Book Chat. First things first, am I crazy? Or does this lighting look better? Am I nuts? I don't even have the light I usually have over here even on right now. And yet I feel like this looks a little bit better. Also, the hat has been found. And I did not lose it before this stream. That's not the reason this stream is late. This stream was late is because, if you didn't notice, the stream kind of broke on Tuesday. And I was like, I think that means I need a new, I need to replace a piece of tech. And so I got that replacement. And I was like, it should just be plug and play. Just plug it in and go. Apparently that's not how it works. So I had to take out the new, swap in the old, and if it breaks again, at least now I know definitively how to fix it really quick. But basically, the thing that lets my camera talk to my computer is unreliable now, which makes sense because when I looked up that it was only like $30, I was like, I haven't upgraded this in years. Anyway, that's a little glimpse into YouTuber ridiculousness. We are discussing Volume 10 of Erha, specifically chapters 304 to 307. For the most part, we drift every now and then. And I've got a list of things to talk about. Granted, it is, well, it appears shorter than usual because of the tech kerfuffle stuff that went on before the stream. But it's a little bit deceptive in its shortness because there's so much to discuss about what could be summed up in just a couple of lines. So this is what we're talking about today. First of all, you know, there's just not enough time in the world for Erha. The thing is is that we could spend the next decade or more trying to parse through everything that this series offers, let alone what it talks about. So obviously today, and in any discussions that I have, it's trying to get the most out of things in a very short period of time. Because this series is like 4 million words. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's like a lot to discuss and get lost in, because, you know, God knows there are series that are just as long, that are millions of words long, that don't provoke half of the things that Erha provokes in more than one sense of the word. And I just wanted to comment on that because it's sickening what Meat Bun has done. You can even discuss like the prose. You could spend a year just on the prose. And I was particularly reminded of the unwieldiness that is Erha with the last stream, because how are we supposed to sit here for, unfortunately, half an hour instead of 45 minutes to discuss everything that happened in 3 chapters when what happened was so monumental and also touched on things that were so complex? What does she think I'm capable of? Frankly. But to make an attempt, you know, I was going to start with Hwai Banan, but let's start with Muyan Lee, actually. Because despite, you know, my opportunity to mull on things and take notes before this stream today being cut down a little bit by tech stuff, I still at least have come around to the fact that I think Muyan Lee represents not just the ride or die allies who have really helped oppressed groups, oppressed people move things forward at the sacrifice of sometimes their literal life, but other times it's like their life in different ways. Like spending a significant portion of your life dedicated to bettering the lives of a group of people who you have no direct relation to. Like, you have no dog in this fight. You are just taking up this cause. And then from there, you have a dog in the fight because you get to know the people involved. There are definitely allies like that who are fucking incredible. But I think she also speaks to the fact that, I mean, she literally is what makes up the rest of the bridge. Arbitrary demon lord shit aside, she is what completes the bridge. And she just really reminds me of the type of allies that we need. Like, she is an example of, you don't need to have a dog in the fight in order to take up the fight. And actually, important shit gets done when the people who don't have a dog in the fight take up the fight. You know what I'm saying? Still, never forgiving her for her bullshit. But this entire series is about nuance, and I can appreciate the nuance here. I love what she represents. I love that she's literally a ride or die. And honestly, a lot of moderate liberals could take note. We stand that aspect of Muyan Lee while being deeply and forever angry at her for other things. Kind of, well, no, not in a similar way to Hwai Banan, really. Hwai Banan is a whole other thing. live. She gets a gold star for loyalty and guts. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Ninan says, as I mentioned last stream, I'm of the opinion that Muyan Li and his mom are probably the only people Hua Binan truly loved, and I think that really shows in the scene where when she dies. You know, that's a pretty safe bet, I feel. And like, there's his people who he was clearly devoted to enough, to an unhealthy degree and in unhealthy ways, but he was like devoted to those people. But in terms of individuals who we see he actually like care for and love, I think that's probably a fair assessment, really. Speaking of Hua Binan, I'm gonna be honest in my lapse of understanding, because it's you guys. And this also illustrates how fucking out of body it can be reading the end stretch of a series like this, like in front of people. When reading Hua Binan's death scene, I was so beside myself for so many reasons, because it was the satisfying death scene that I had been fucking waiting for. And I still feel really validated that, even though it obviously contained much greater context and situations than anyone could have possibly anticipated, I was still fucking right to be on his ass basically from the word go. Still feeling very vindicated about that. But like, his death was actually happening like in front of me, to say nothing of the fact that he was kind of pulling a Muyan Li, like sacrificing himself for not just his values but his people and all of that. So there was like a lot of perfect character stuff going on. The prose, ridiculous. The moment crafted around that, ridiculous. Bringing up the precise moment and way his mom died, like a couple of pages before his, skull, he cracks in a similar way. Beautiful, gorgeous, stunning, to the point where I was so fucked up that I did not realize what was happening around him at the time. I did not realize that the beauty feasts were escaping into the demon realm, and that he succeeded in that sense. At best, my brain, the only possibility my brain was offering was that he was buying time while they ran down the bridge. This was how I was. And it is embarrassing. But I just think that goes to show how fucking blitzed my brain is at the fault of Meat Bun. So we're gonna blame Meat Bun for this and have a good laugh at my expense. But yeah, turns out reading the end of Erha after 2 years of experiencing it and being like in awe of it and loving so much of it and being impacted so heavily, turns out my brain kind of goes nuts at the idea of actually experiencing the ending, to the tune of, I did not know which way the beauty feasts were running, apparently. So that's my little confession from me to you. And then, which of course slightly changes things about Hua Binan, in that he did indeed like fully succeed. He did the thing, which is great, because if he had made it into the demon realm, I stand by what I said recently, which is that he could make it to the demon realm and it still wouldn't be far enough. He would still be looking for the next place to run, with or without a beauty feast cause to rally behind. That's too much of a gigantic, unresolved, unhandled trauma. He succeeded though. I would kind of like I'd be interested in a AU fic where where the beauty feasts don't flee into the demon realm and they do just like flee down the bridge, etc. Because since they got their spiritual cores restored to full capacity, I would love a version of the ending and beyond in which the beauty feasts are now in a world in which they can defend themselves and become a small clan alongside everyone else. That would be fucking fascinating. I went to take a drink of water. I don't actually have water in here because I was so rushed to get to you guys for being late that I grabbed Chuaning. I did not put anything in Chuaning. Chuaning is empty. Take that verbiage and do with it what you want. But there's nothing in here yet. We're hoping, though. Oh, yeah. Maria and Liv bring up a good point. Where the fuck is Shimei? Our timeline Shimei. OG Shimei. Not here anymore. Our timeline Shimei. What's that? He was more chill than Hua Binan, but the fact that he hasn't popped up yet at all is kind of starting to make me nervous. Where's the other water bitch? We're down one. Where's the other one? These are the questions. Oh, also about, see, this is why I write things down. Also about Hua Binan, I find it poetically interesting that his blood was both demonic and divine, which I hadn't really, that hadn't sunk in until it became the most relevant in the previous reading stream. That hadn't fully sunk in, that he would then therefore be half divine and half demonic. And to me, that rather beautifully mirrors his whole black and white thinking thing. Not that one caused the other, literally, but I just feel like that was an intentional bit on Meat Bun's part. And one of the discussion questions that I wanted to ask you guys actually was, what are your thoughts on Hua Binan's obsession with purity? Especially since he knows that he's half divine, half demonic. Maybe it's because he's half divine and half demonic that he's obsessed with his own purity and people's purity. There's something in there about the abuse that beauty feasts have suffered that creates that sort of us, them, black, white, saint, sinner, Madonna whore complex. But it feels like there might be something else to it, or like maybe that doesn't fit or explain it entirely. So I wanted to toss that out either as food for thought or maybe one of you knows the thing and can deeply enlighten me, because God knows that happens all the time. Liv says, do you think that's why people couldn't tell? Because one canceled the other out? Can you elaborate for a second? Why they couldn't tell what specifically? Liv says, I think it's a protective shield to keep people away. You're not wrong. It's certainly a form of self-protection, but there's a difference in protecting yourself and then actively pushing people away. And I think that's definitely part of it. I think you hit on another aspect of it. For sure. It's really easy to push them away if you have a strict binary you operate on and people are either worth your time or not. Oh, Liv, that he was a beauty feast. So do you think that's why people couldn't tell he was a beauty feast? Because one canceled the other out. Ooh. That's another good point, actually. I'd say, yeah, that probably did help him hide a little bit. And it's not surprising that there would be multiple reasons going into the decision to make Huabinan divine and demonic blood. That's just meat bun. If she only has one reason for making a decision, it's because she just wasn't trying hard enough. And so therefore nothing she does has just one reason. No creative decision she makes just has one reason. Because she's like, that's not good enough. And I'm like, that's crazy, but I admire it and respect it. And technically, really technically, in a writing craft sense, there is an emphasis on making sure that a lot of decisions or certain decisions in execution, in creation, in all of it, isn't just hinging on one thing. That, especially when it comes to like scene stuff and character creation, like it shouldn't just be doing one job, it should be doing like 2 or 3. There is that general craft aspect. However, she takes it to some kind of unholy, unattainable place. Didn't we say that this took her 4 years to map out before she wrote it? If somebody knows, please advise. I feel like we've talked about this before, but I can't remember off the top of my head how long she planned it before she started writing it, or just that process in general. Damn, I wish I had a better memory. I know we talked about this before. Henry says Shimei 2.0 got to form closer bonds with Chuaning, Morun, Shuimeng because he had time with them post Butterfly Town and without the flower, so he was less willing to sacrifice non-beauty feasts. Bingo. Yeah. Which just goes back into my whole thing about exposure. If you actually interact with the people, the group, the person in question, it just creates a whole different dynamic. It's much harder to paint them as straw men or all one thing when you have that kind of time and experience. Ooh, Ninin also says, also OG Shimei didn't have to go as far, or our timeline Shimei didn't have to go as far, because Huabinan was around to go too far in his stead. Also that. I'm going to write that down, actually. Huabinan was around to go too far. Liv says, to be honest, I think his need for control and possession over Chu Wanning was half out of self-protection and half out of feeling the need to control divine beings after what his father, who descended from gods, did. Live out here with the daddy issues take. I hadn't gotten there yet. Uh-huh. That makes a frightening amount of sense. And reminds me of that one line towards the end of the movie Molly's Game, which is a great film. You should see it. I love Aaron Sorkin. Where Molly and her dad are talking, and her dad talks about how she got into her whole line of business and running poker and everything so that she could have power over powerful men, which it was her dad calling her out on her daddy issues that he knew was very warranted. And this is what that reminds me of. That Huabinan was that's my new favorite. I'm writing that down too. Yep. Divine daddy issues even. He's showing us all up on that regard. Oh, motherfucker, that's true. God damn. Oh, no, I love that so much. Huabinan didn't know that Chu Wanning was a tree. That feels right. That feels right. Damn. That's too good, though. Now, see, this is why I need to talk to Meat Bun for like 10 hours. Because I wouldn't be surprised that even though that's not the canonical angle, if that still hadn't like occurred to her. Like she didn't design it around that because obviously if Huabinan didn't know, then that wouldn't make any sense. However, when designing the whole thing, I wonder if either she didn't clock that or if she was like, oh, and that lines up kind of nicely, actually. Not in any way that affects canon, but is still like in the spirit of the design of everything. Because I tell you, I've had like similar and very specific instances with that in creating and developing stories. You think of something and you can't bring it into text, but you still like clock it. Liv says, but he was positioned as a divine being, in my opinion, even if he didn't know outright. That's kind of what I'm, yeah. Argon says, okay, but consider that it's still daddy issues because his father's version of love was consumption. That would explain why Huabinan's first instinct was to turn Chu Wanning into his puppet. Not that that would be the only reason, but you know, that would be one of the things that made him decide that first. Huh. Ninin, in regards to the Huabinan daddy issues thing, says, I'm sort of getting that from my favorite Huabinan character study fic. In fact, I'm using great restraint to not quote that fic in almost its entirety right now. Well, you have to link it now. I can't remember if YouTube lets you link things in stream chats or not, because God knows their approach to that changes every day. But you got to link that somewhere. In the Discord, somewhere. You can't dangle something like that and then not toss a link my way. Oh, good. Argon linked it in the Discord. And we'll try linking it here. Thank you so much. Ninan also says, let's be honest about things here. I'm pretty sure there is a grand total of 2 good fathers in Erha, so no wonders there's a lot of daddy issues around. I can think of Shui Jingyang. Who's the other one? There's only about 1.5 million characters in this story, so I'm not surprised I'm blanking on one of them. Yeah, see, even Zareem is like, who's the second? Love suggests Chushun, which, not wrong. Maybe there's 3. Unless that was what, Ninan was talking about. Oh, it was who she was talking about, Chushun. Correct. Yes, 2 good fathers. And they're both dead. Oh, well, Henry says, I hate to ruin people's party, but Chushun killed his son. Like, yeah. But, you know, circumstances. I forget which school of philosophy is the one that that is based around the whole sort of numbers thing. If you have to, with like the trolley problem, and like that mode of philosophy answers the trolley problem by being like you hurt as few people as possible. So if you have to hurt 3 people or 1 person, you hurt 1 person. It's kind of Vulcan. I'm blanking on the name of that philosophy, but that's deeply at the root of like Chushun stuff and a lot of things involved with Erha. There's a lot of talk. Henry, utilitarianism, baby. Thank you. We are just a few minutes away from the stream. Thank you so much, Zareem. We are now, was that it? I just want to make sure that, no, that was it. That was all the notes I had. And then now I have a couple written down because you guys are perceptive and insightful. I am going to hop over to the stream. That's going to happen. We did not even get to Mo Run being back. He's back now. Huabinan is dead. Mo Run, Tisha, and Jun is now back in business. That's also a thing that's happening. Do you see what I mean? 10 years we could talk about. I'm going to go, have a conniption and actually put something in Chuaning before I go over to the stream. I'll be over there. Thank you for having a chat with me, and I'll see you in just a second.